you guys what my plan is. Okay, so the plan is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and get a pallet of Purell at Walmart. I'm gonna buy it off the truck tonight, and then we're gonna go on Cheaper Than Dirt, and we're gonna sell it for $55 a bottle. Oh, and we're live. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Caliber Corner, episode number 126. Just forget everything that you just heard me say in there. We've got an exciting little episode this evening. Now, I'm not trying to jump on the coronavirus bandwagon, all right? But I had a very unique experience this weekend that made me think to myself, we should have a show about basic prepping, okay? Every spring, I don't know if you watch this show, but every spring for the last 2 or 3 years, we've had a spring storm prep video where we talk about the basics that you need to survive, say, a hurricane season or a tornado season, a natural disaster season. Now, each disaster has its own little unique set of requirements that you might need to survive and thrive, okay? But for the coronavirus, we're just kind of tying it in with the spring storm season because there's a lot of things that you're going to find that these two have in common. There's also going to be some unique requirements, I think, for kind of hunkering down and lasting out the coronavirus threat that's going on and what can happen from it and so on. I mean, it is more or less, for all, basic terms, just another form of the flu, right? But before we get into any of that, just a quick reminder, tonight's episode is brought to you courtesy of SS Pawn in Lexington, Nebraska. I want you guys to take the Interstate 80 exit at Lexington, Nebraska, go north. SS Pawn is on the right side. There's a big sign that says Pawn Shop. Go in there, say hello to Stan, let him know that you saw me over on Caliber Corner, and SS Pawn will take care of your firearms needs. Okay, let's let the panel go ahead and introduce themselves. And Squib, we'll start up with you. How you doing, man?
If I can find the mute button.
Hey.
Doing good. Thanks for the invite. Hoping for a show that talks about some things about prepping to kind of let people know who aren't preppers that you can do that sort of thing without seeming like a wacko.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll kind of share a little discussion I had with my my wife this weekend, too, that kind of changed her perspective on what I do, this kind of mentality, right? Okay, thanks for being here, Squibby. You've been here since the start, man. I appreciate it. Also joining us for the first time, I believe, New York Outcast. New York, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Travis.
Hey, I'll sell you this bottle of water for $17, okay?
17?
Okay, 15. Gun channel discount, all right?
Okay.
Anyway, man, so what you been doing lately? What's going on? You hanging in there?
Not too much. I've been busy a bit in my personal life, but that's about it. So.
Hey, that's all right, man. That's all right. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you being here, man. I'll keep inviting you in the future, and feel free to swing on by. All right. Also joining us, another long-term guest to the panel. We got the Kingpin going on. David Bowling, what's going on?
How's it going, Travis? Thanks for having me. I don't know if I'm gonna have a lot to add to this conversation. I've never been a big fan of preppy people, so I'm not really too sure.
Hey, I was expecting you to go live from Costco and show the chaos going on as soccer moms battle it out over the last box of fruit by the foot. I was really disappointed I didn't get to see that coverage, Kingpin.
Well, I was filming, and then this 96-year-old lady beat the crap out of me and stole my phone.
Hit you over the head with the last garden gnome that they have in Costco, huh?
Yeah, I was trying to get some toilet paper, and she jacked me with her walker.
And then she took off with the toilet paper and made it through the self-checkout, huh? Oh, man. God, I'll tell you what. So I got a lot of stuff to cover this evening, so we're just going to go ahead and fire it up. Let's see who's joining in. Watch, and looks like we got a little SS Pawn in the house. But what if I'm already a wacko asking for a friend at Travis P11? Yoder, I don't know what to tell you, man. Sandhill Shooters in the house. AWAG 1000 is out there. Jay Monty's kicking it with us. 1738. Travis T, another member of the Travi Collective. Tacos and French fries in the house. Joe Ziola's out there for us. Midnight Range TM. Billy the cab driver. Let's see here. What else we got? Vanessa Kitty's in the house. Jimmy Kimmel's out there too. He says, "Oorah!" or "Hooray!" One of the two, I'm not sure. So tonight we're not really going to have a discussion so much on firearms. We will talk about the importance of firearms, especially in the situation of some sort of civil unrest or some sort of martial law and whatnot, or lack of resources. But a couple things I want to mention real quick. First of all, I want you guys to go over and check out the Xander, the Alaskan Gun Guide channel over there on YouTube. Again, that's Xander, the Alaskan gun guy. He's trying to get his channel up and running. He's been a longtime viewer of my channel. He's wondering if I could put a little plug in for him. We're doing that. He's got some videos. He's just getting started. Let's show him a little bit of love and subscribe over there. Xander, the Alaskan gun guy. All right. If you guys got a smaller channel that you want me to just announce or let the world know about, the few people that watch this podcast, I'll be more than happy to do it for you. Obviously, I check the channel out ahead of time, and if it's cool, when I'm just saying there's no like whatever, nothing that I wouldn't consider saying myself on air or whatnot, then we'll go ahead and give it a plug. So that's going on. Second announcement I have for you. Over the next 4 weeks, my wife and I are going to be doing the bulk of the moving. You're going to see a lot of this behind you. Disappeared. It's going to be me in a white room. I swear it's not a sanitarium. The content's going to slow down a little bit. I purposely tried to put a bunch of content out last week. I had some time, and we're in the process of moving. And these next couple weeks are going to be a lot of busyness on the weekends. Not a lot of range time for me, and for me to try to get out to the range in between decent weather, which is rare in Nebraska springtime. I'm going to bring you content the best I can, but you might see things slow down a little bit. Maybe just like a video a week, maybe one aside from Caliber Corner, but last week I put out 4 or 5 videos. So enjoy the content that's over there. There's a lot of videos on my channel. I got a good variety for you. Enjoy it. And I'm not slowing things down or whatever. I'm just in the process of moving. So that's taking up time on top of the fact that I also work too. I have a job. You can't check out the videos on Patreon first. I always post them at least a day or two in advance unless it's something I absolutely have to get out there. Okay, so that's something I just want to announce. But I got a lot of cool videos for you on the channel, so do check it out. All right, enough of my shameless self-promoting. Any questions out there from the chat tonight? Anything you want us to focus on specifically? You said, is that Xander or Xander? I think it's Zander, if I'm not mistaken. Xander, the Alaskan gun guy. There's like 4 or 5 videos on the channel, just to let you know. So, SS Pond says, Midnight Range, I have firearms needs. Don't we all? Oh, and we're coming up on 25,000 subscribers. I want to do a gun giveaway. I got to talk to SS Pond to see how this is going to work. The process of transferring, it's going to be complicated, and I don't know if I can include California or New York or any of these highly restricted states. I'm gonna make sure I try to include everybody I possibly can in the drawing. But if you happen to win and it's not an eligible firearm, I will have to figure something out. All right, I might buy something where if you can't take it, then I'll just hold on to it or whatever. But I'll give you some sort of compensation for what I can't give you. All right, so we're gonna work on something. I've got my eyes on a couple cool firearms that we might be willing to give away and see how that's going to work out. I would take care of the shipping. I would take care of purchasing the firearm. You'd have to take care of whatever transfer process happens in your state. So we'll get a video out about that here at some point. Definitely going to try to incorporate it with guntube.org also. Whew, man, that's a lot. Okay, so I want to start off by telling everybody a story. Last weekend, my wife and I moved the bulk of our stuff into our new residence, okay? I've got plenty of supplies here at the house, okay? I've got food, I've got water, firearm, ammo, whatever. You'd expect that checking out my channel. I'm not telling you that you don't already know. So we're moving into the new apartment, all right? And the wife says to me, hey, you want to go run to Costco and go pick up some toilet paper and some basics for the apartment? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Well, I kind of forgot that there's this panic pandemic mentality going on with people right now, especially these big buyer clubs where people are just going in and buying stuff they think they can't live without. Now, granted, there's some stuff that you need. So I get to the Costco parking lot at 10 a.m. on Saturday. It is completely packed. The store is packed, okay? I go in there, and people are civil. People are fine. Everybody's walking out with the 24-pack, 18 packs of toilet paper, cases of bottled water. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, it's a lot of people that aren't prepared. Now, the scary thing about this is if we had an actual emergency and these people wouldn't get these supplies, what kind of mentality are they going to take on 24 or 48 hours from now if they don't have those things? Mom, I'm hungry. Hey, honey, we're out of toilet paper. There's no water, right? What happens to these people? And if you walk around, you're like, man, there's a lot of people. Either they have it and they're buying more, okay? Or they're just simply unprepared, right? So I go and I brought some stuff from home, some basics that we would have at the house. I did bring my wife a couple of the Wise food buckets so she would have some food so should something happen, right? Or if we need it, weather related or whatnot. So I thought, let's tie this into some sort of a basic prepper discussion going into spring storm season, some things that you absolutely must have. So I get to Costco, and there's a limit of 2 on cases of water, and there's a limit of 2 on toilet paper. They had 1 pallet of toilet paper left, literally 1 pallet. The entire wall was empty, right? And water was there, but they were limiting it to 2 cases per membership per day, which is fine. I mean, you could still buy whatever you wanted to. Hand sanitizer was nowhere to be found. There was, I was looking around. They had like one pallet of Clorox that people were just reaching for, ripping into it and stuff. They brought some pallets down and stuff. And so for the first time in my life, I'm not going to say that I felt unprepared, because I'm prepared as much as I can be, right? We had some food, we had some water back at the house, right? But for the first time, I saw how it felt to not be prepared and be awake to the fact that, not everybody's ready for this kind of thing. I didn't like that uncomfortable feeling of being told you can only buy this much. You can only get this much. Now, does anybody really need 96 rolls of toilet paper? I mean, me, if it's a bad week, who knows, right? Now, Squib and I had a discussion. If you're going to get the flu, you're going to burn through a couple rolls in a couple hours, but we'll talk about that later. So just that hitting me thinking, man, I really didn't plan for this move very well, because we've got abundant supplies here at the house, but this new location, less square footage, less space, transitioning over, not having these supplies. I don't even know where to begin with this discussion. Guys, what do you think? Where should we take this? Let's just get into the basics that people need. If you had to go, say, 14 days without being able to leave the home, maybe you're quarantined, right? Or maybe you just can't get to the store. Maybe there's nothing at the store. I'm just picking 14 days because it seems to be that's like the period that a lot of people have to stay home that are coming down with this kind of thing, or the quarantine situation. Guys, what do you think, man? Where do we start with this? 14 days? Do you guys catch yourself off guard at all with any of this stuff or not?
So I was when this all hit, I ended up having to check my supply and restock some things that I've dwindled over the years, and found some canned goods that didn't get rotated that I had to cycle out and replace. So I was caught a little off guard in that sense, but I've always been a person to have a backup, and a lot of times a backup for a backup. So that's just me naturally. So I would call it like a freak out or nothing. In a way, even if nothing happens, it was good for me to at least get my things back in order. So in a way, I probably felt like you felt at the store, except maybe not the same, because I know I have something. So.
Yeah, so the first thing is you want to check your supplies, see what you have. Okay, the essentials are going to obviously be food and water. Okay, Kingpin, what do you think, man? Anything you want to say on that? Basic supplies, anything that you discovered while you're kind of going through things? Are you even doing any kind of prep at all? Or are you just kind of going with what you have, not worried about it? Okay, David might have some connection problems. Oh, he just got disconnected. Okay, so yeah, so the basics. Let's talk about water for a second. All these people were buying cases of water, and if you live in an area where you can drink the tap water, I mean, say maybe at a minimum, you might want to just have yourself like a live straw or some sort of purification straw for starters, just in case the taps would get turned off or the power would happen to go out. So we're painting a worst case scenario situation here, right? But if you live in a place that has wells, maybe you have your own well, maybe the water's okay to drink out of the tap locally. It's not really anything that you need to necessarily be concerned about. I mean, I see all these people buying water and I'm thinking, why? Okay, now, not that you shouldn't have some. I mean, I have it because I live in Tornado Alley, and if we'd happen to have a nasty storm and things back up and the tap and the wells get polluted, we can't drink the city water, right? But I mean, for something like this, other than say people getting super ill that work at these treatment plants and it's this massive infection going around and people are dropping like flies, do you really need to worry about the water thing? You should always have a couple cases anyway, right? Just to have on standby, but still going out and starting to hoard pallets of water or buy cases and cases of water. Is that something that's really necessary? I don't necessarily think so. I think you should have what you think you need to get by for say 14 to 30 days. And you might have kids, okay? Now, the people that live in communities that have tap water that's unsuitable for drinking or tap water that you're not supposed to drink, or if they have an uncompromised immunity or children, maybe some kind of medication issue, if you got to have bottled water, I understand completely. Okay, I get that. But the whole water thing, it just kind of throws me off. But again, for spring storm season, the fact that you could have electricity go out, we've had that go out for a couple days or go out for a day. Taps don't work. There's no electricity to run the pumps, okay? And if you have no access to wells, depending on where you are, you might be in that kind of a situation where you can't get to the water. I don't know, guys. What do you think about the whole water situation? New York or Squibby? Anything you would chime in on that? Is that kind of overblown going out there and buying the cases of water? What do you guys think? I mean, it is essential to life, but yeah.
If you have the storage space for it, and you're going to be using it anyhow, maybe on a regular, semi-regular basis, it might not be a bad idea to buy in bulk to save money. We've got 3 people living in our household who take bottled water to work. And my older son and I drink a few of them on the job because we work physical jobs where we need to stay hydrated. So we drink more than, say, my wife who has a desk job. But we would be buying it either way. So if I pick up 4 cases at Sam's Club, that's a regular thing for us, and it's cost effective. Somebody else might see somebody walking out with 4 cases of water and think that there's a problem.
And that seemed to be the thing that I noticed, that people were kind of looking around, and when somebody would grab something, you'd see people. And I kind of spent some time in Costco just kind of looking at the populace and what people, they would just kind of flock to one area and then kind of flock to, they weren't buying, the fresh meats. They weren't buying the pasta. They weren't buying the canned vegetables. It was just water, toilet paper, cleaners. They were buying the bleach, which they probably don't even know how to use to disinfect. They were buying the Sandy wipes. They were buying, diapers. And I mean, it was, I don't understand why the markets are down. People are spending money hand over fist stocking up for this event, whether they're going to use it or not. But still, it just kind of blows my mind. Kingpin, what's your thoughts about stocking up on water? Do you think a person should have a couple cases on standby for just basic emergencies or what?
Yeah, absolutely. My parents, during last summer, well went out, and they didn't have any water whatsoever. So thankfully, they had a couple cases of water in their basement so they could have something to drink and wash dishes with and cook with. It took me like 2 days to fix the well, but that was 2 days that 70-year-old people didn't have water. So of course, you definitely got to have water.
Yeah, and again, you might be in a community where you can't drink, say, the tap water, like I had mentioned before. I mean, that's a good point. You should have a couple. But you got to think about what is the disaster I'm preparing for. And furthermore, if you got an abandoned house, if you have a tornado and you have to leave, or there's fires, cases and cases of water, can you really take it with you? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things that to me, it just seems a little bit. I mean, I understand the water is the most essential thing you need to live, right? But I don't think you necessarily need a pallet sitting in your basement that you're going to have to rotate through anyway within a year or so.
I would think that the most important thing in any survival situation would be a good network of friends and family, because you can have everything piled up in your basement, to all the ammo in the world, all the water in the world, all the canned food in the world. When a tornado wipes your house out, it's done. It's gone. And if you're the guy on the block that everybody hates because you're a jerk or you just don't feel like saying hi to your neighbors, then you're out of luck. When your next door neighbors are going to have, maybe a friend come by, or maybe they have some type of
generator,
some type of community where, Travis is down and a bunch of people send stuff to your house to help you out, or let you sleep with us for a little while because your house doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, here in Nebraska, we've had towns in the last 15, 20 years completely leveled by tornadoes, and that's the worst thing in the world. I mean, I don't know, these people come out of their tornado shelters, they come out of their basements and stuff. A lot of people here have basements in Nebraska, and you got nothing. So I mean, that's the neighbors thing is something I never thought about. Prepping. Do you know your neighbors? Are you familiar with them? Do you know them by name? Do you know their families? Do you know anything about them at all? Do you just all come home in your little suburb and just go in your garage and never go out to say hello? Do you even say hello when you guys are mowing the yard? Neighbors could be one of the most important allies too. What if you'd have to do something to protect your homes or protect your property, or you're going to get some kind of a neighborhood watch put together? We're always trying to paint the worst case scenario here. Okay. So
even if you're not interested in having, that friendship, that connection, you say keep your enemies close and your friends even close, or your friends close and your enemies even closer. If you're cordial with your next door neighbors, you don't have to worry about them coming and killing you for your water.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is going to be looters. And also on the bait. Now again, maybe there's some of you that don't do any prepping whatsoever. And if you've never had this experience, I'll just say right now, it was not a fun experience for me, somebody who always thinks he's ready for everything the world can send his way, to go to the store and see quantities limited, to see not available, to see empty shelves. I mean, I understand this kind of thing is common every day in third world countries or in certain locations. That happens all the time, right? Venezuela or whatever, okay? But, I mean, to actually experience it, it was a new thing for me, and it made me kind of change my own kind of personal thoughts about prepping. Not that I'm going to go whole hog and get pallets of, Wise buckets or whatnot, but it does help me stay a little more vigilant. A funny little story. I'm here. My wife is there. She's 175 miles away. and we're buying supplies and stuff. And she goes, what do I eat if I can't leave the house for 14 days? And I said, oh, now you care about these food buckets that I bought a year or two ago because I wanted us to have at least a 60-day supply. Now you care. Okay, well, the next time I buy them, it's because of stuff like this. Just because you think nothing can ever happen, do you plan for infectious disease, right? If that kind of thing happens, do you plan for influenza? And I'm not saying this to her, but I kind of gave her a hard time. I'm like, and here you're giving me crap for buying these 6 buckets of food that could sustain us for 60 days, or, like Never Enough Ammo said, if you lose your job or you can't take care of yourself or whatever, your oven goes out, right? You've got sustenance, and that's the most important thing. So if you don't have anything, you got to get something. I mean, you got to start off somewhere. And seeing these people coming out and freaking out and buying stuff, it's like there's a lot of unprepared people out there. Now, let's kind of shift back to the comments real quick. What do we got going on here? Travis T said this is really a common issue for us in Florida. We get a week or more of warning for hurricanes that people clean off the shelves at the stores. Yeah, they go buy bread and milk. That's what it is for us here with winter storms. M. Gabriel says, eat all the toilet paper. Hey, only if it's natural fibers, buddy. Midnight Range says that there's a zombie apocalypse. He's going to pretend that he doesn't know any of us. Let's see here. Henry Solstice says, how has flood recovery been? Best wishes for those flooded people. Here in Nebraska, it's been slow. It's taken months and months and months for people to get any kind of aid or relief at all. I don't know of anybody that's necessarily lost their farms, but there was a ton of property damage. Agriculture impact was huge. Land has just been really, really destroyed. It's going to take some time to get back to 100% here in Nebraska. A lot of other good stuff popping up. Hooligan Outdoors says, I just need bacon, pancakes, and beer. I mean, really, you've got sugar, you got carbs, you got water, you got protein. Hey, I'm not going to disagree with you, sir. Billy, the cab driver, says, I live a mile from a lake, which happens to be the water source for my city. And that's another thing, too. If you have something like a purification straw, that will let you drink lake water, right? Or stagnant water, and it's gonna purify it, or you have some sort of a purification system. That's definitely a good thing, right? Let's see. You're trying to see if anybody else. Midnight Range says Kingpin is not stockpiling bowling pins. Only a nut job would do that. Kingpin, I thought you have tons of bowling pins out in your back shed, don't you?
Well, my good friend NEPA Gun Talk gave me a couple at the Harrisburg rally.
Sweet.
The rally that Midnight Range stiffed me on some brownies.
Oh man! Ouch! 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 Tacos and French fries says you also need batteries, flashlight, lanterns, etc. Yeah. Once we get through food and water, we're now going to fall back on some of the basics. The other thing too, medication. Do you have at least a 14-day supply of meds if you need them? You should start maybe getting in a cycle. If you can renew your meds, say if you're down to your last week, you should maybe renew. So you've got at least a 7-day supply of diabetes medication or maybe insulin, right? The other thing, too, is going to be pet food. Now, granted, animals can eat about anything. Dogs can eat about anything, right? But if you can't get to the pet, I actually found myself buying an extra bag of dog food and cat food. Not that the little guy couldn't eat table scraps, but if I want to keep him healthy and sustained, say we got to travel or go somewhere, I'm going to have a little bag of food I can take with me. So if you got pets, that's something to consider too. We talked about pets and bugging out, and a lot of people said they would leave their animal behind because they don't know if they could sustain the animal, or just let the animal go, let nature run its course with that animal, which a lot of us would never think of doing. But if you got to go, you don't have room or you don't have a way to sustain that animal, I'm not saying do it, but I'm just saying that's something that people mentioned in our last little prepper chat that we had here. Other people say you can boil water if you need to. Obviously, a little generator is not a bad idea if you can get one. Water, food, gas, propane, medication, firearms, and ammo. That's pretty much the hierarchy right there that I think you need to get by. Water to survive, food to sustain yourself, gas to get away from things, propane to cook if you need to, medications to stay alive, firearms, and ammo, right?
Marco Dunn says, LOL, my grandpa built a bomb shelter in the 50s. My dad expanded on it, and I've kept it up since then. The thing that's real important about a bomb shelter is you've got to keep the mold and mildew out. Because if you don't keep it clean and you don't keep it refreshed, when your family goes down in there, you're all going to end up with pneumonia.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, the prepper shelter thing is a whole different, discussion we could have. I know I like the Bear Independent channel. If you guys have ever watched him before, I think he works for a company that oversees the installation of prepper shelters, and so they do the earth moving and the setup and stuff like that, which you can learn a lot from his channel about them. That's almost another discussion. But yeah, if you have any kind of a shelter, are you maintaining that? Have you not gone down there since Grandpa used it 50 years ago? You think you're just going to open the door and walk down? It could be full of water. It could have God knows what living in it. You could have mold going on. Now, Patrick says the freaking out about the coronavirus is just nuts. The regular flu has killed and infected more people in the USA than coronavirus. And Patrick, I agree with you completely. I don't know if this strain necessarily has a higher mortality rate. The only reason why I would say prepared is because society is freaking out, because cities and school districts are putting 5-day, 10-day mandatory quarantines or lockouts or whatever you want to call it, because it's happening. We have to be prepared for that, whether we're going to go along with the hysteria or not, which I would hope we wouldn't. But I mean, it is best to make sure that you are prepared if you're a victim of this insanity. Say your employer says, hey, we've got a confirmed case. Everybody's got to stay home for the next 14 days. Don't come to work, you know? And Squib and I were having a little discussion about financial compensation. How do you handle that? Do you have money set up where you could go 30 days without a paycheck and you pay the bills for 30 or 60 days? Do you have enough in savings to get by for a couple months if you can't go to work? Or if you work a job that doesn't have short-term and long-term disability? There's a lot of factors that you really should think about and take into consideration when it comes to prepping so you can just function on a normal basis, right? That paycheck doesn't come in. Are you going to lose your car? Are you going to lose your apartment or your home if you don't get that check next month, right? These are always things that you need to think about. Sketchy Roll says it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Sketchy Roll, that's right. And that's the same thing that I basically told my wife. I said, isn't it nice to have them when we need them than not and wonder what we're going to do, right? Now, granted, we had some stuff up in the pantry, but I was trying to get her set up so if she had to go 14 days without we're going to be living in a big city. I mean, infections do spread, right? I wanted to make sure that she was at least ready to go. So we've got water, toilet paper is always nice to have, right? Food. Let's talk about food for a little bit. I do not recommend, unless you absolutely have to, that you go out and look at buying food preparation buckets. I don't recommend you do this because the prices have literally doubled on Amazon. Unless you absolutely have to have one, Wise Food Company, and I'm not going to say they're gouging. I don't know. If you look at the price range on them, back on February, and I'm not trying to create hate for Wise. I buy a lot of their products, but I bought my buckets for like $59.99 a year or two ago. On February 8th, the price of their 124 serving food bucket was $99. Today, they are $199 on Amazon, and they're being sold through the Wise Company. Oh, now it says available from these sellers. We'll see if Wise is still selling it. Wise is basically sold out. Oh, they're already sold out anyway, so it doesn't matter. So check these websites because their prices have really gone up. I would recommend maybe look into storing some dry goods, beans and rice. We've had this discussion before. Looking at ways of vacuum sealing that food. Any kind of dried meats or vegetables would be nice to look into also. A lot of times that's what you're buying. You're buying meals that you reconstitute with warm water, right? Guys, what are some good food preps for long-term storage? What do you think? I mean, I primarily have the buckets because that's what I bought, the little 124 serving buckets. MREs aren't a bad idea, but panel, what do you guys think? Food preps, what's good?
Seafood is probably the best idea. Have some nice shrimp and some fish. That's obviously a joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could dry it out, and you could make like some lutefisk out of it, pack it in salt, and just eat it aged, right?
Ritz crackers, saltine crackers. Little tiny snacks like that can keep you at least thinking that you're eating, and keep your stomach from being empty. Plus, it's got sodiums and little bits of stuff in it, but they're cheap, they're easy, they last for a really long time, and really, if you end up eating a stale cracker, I mean, how much different is that from a fresh cracker?
True. Peanut butter is another big one that we discussed ahead of time. Go to these buyers clubs and get yourself 2 giant jars of peanut butter. It'll keep for a year. As you get close to its expiration date, just bust it out and let the kids, make sandwiches out of it or whatever. You've got fat, you've got salts, you've got carbs in that. You got protein. Not a ton of protein, surprisingly, but you've got protein.
White rice and pasta.
Okay, white rice and pasta. Beans are a good one, right? Beans and rice are good to have. Salt's nice to have. Some sort of seasoning or flavors. New York, what do you think, man? Food preps, what's a good one?
I think a lot of them have been named, but I'd also add spaghetti sauce, obviously spaghetti, and some like beef stews, something like that. That could, you would eat anyway, but that way it has a variety of different things in it. Salt, meat. Try to get the biggest bang for your buck, in my opinion. Or doing rice, add maybe, I don't know, tuna fish, some kind of meat in with it. Normally in those situations, you're doing more, so you need a higher calorie diet, whether it's just securing stuff from your property from blowing away, or constantly checking windows, or, a higher stress level. So, and I'd also add some comfort foods would be good. If you have kids and things like that, hard candies will last a long time. It's little things go a long way in tough situations sometimes.
Instant coffee is another good one. That'll keep for a year if you don't open it, if not more. Which, it's better than no coffee. I mean, I've got to have my coffee. So imagine, again, I've talked about this, the barter value of a can of instant coffee in the apocalypse, right? Or just I have little packets of Folgers that I just keep in my backpack in case I want a cup of coffee and there's nothing around. I just warm up some water and pour it in there. It's better than nothing, Let's see what we got people chiming in over there. Let's see what people are saying.
Yeah, I just want to make one mention real quick. That everybody who loves mayonnaise, you ain't getting none during a survival situation. So there.
Man, once you open it, it's going to spoil. And unless you want botulism, I don't recommend you go there, right? Or salmonella or whatever. Sketchy Rolls chiming in. Cartons of cigarettes. Again, now we're starting to get into the the apocalypse barter value, right? Yoder says, I want to buy a herd of pigs to make sure that I have plenty of fresh bacon on hand. Yoder, can you just go out back and take care of any of those little wild hogs you got running around out there? Marco Dunn says bouillon cubes make things a lot better. So lots of little things that you could pick up and put in your pantry that'll keep for a long time. Canned salmon keeps for years, right? Blue Steels 44 says, what up? Not much, man. We're just talking about food preps, buddy. Two Gun Kitty, the Catnip Outlaw, says rice oil has long shelf life. Ozzy Orsborn says Slim Jims last forever. They do, right? Midnight Range TM says canned stuff that's in water, fruits, veggies, chicken, tuna is good because you get hydration from it. That's a good point. The drier the food you eat, the more water you're going to need to drink. I never thought about that. Plus, there might be more salt in that stuff too, right?
I disagree on the Slim Jim thing. I thought it might be a good prep item, but I now have a rule: eat it at point of sale, because I've had them that have just been sitting in the kitchen for a couple of weeks and go to eat them, and they taste terrible. One of them we opened up had mold inside of it. It was only 3-4 weeks old.
Oh, man. I did a little video where I went to Dollar Tree and took $20 and I bought as much stuff as I could get for just like an emergency food prep. You guys should check out the video. I'll try to put a link for it at the end of this. And I had so many people. I made a comment saying, make sure that you rotate this food out. And I'd said, just make sure you rotate the food out by the expiration date. Now, there's a lot of people that live in this mentality that the expiration date is just something there to move product as part of a marketing ploy. Because there was a time where foods didn't have an expiration date. We rotated heavily in stores. The food stock would get used. The mom at home in the pantry would keep an eye on things, right? I don't know. I try not to eat food past the expiration date. Things like milk, you're kind of taking a chance and you can usually tell when it's sour. Have you ever experimented and opened something up after its expiration date? New York, you were mentioning something like that earlier.
Not intentionally. I've found some milk I wish I didn't a couple times. But I try to have things cycled out by the date myself. I do believe that things are fine within a year or two afterward, but
if it's canned, right?
Yeah,
or jarred. If it's jarred, it's going to last years. So, yeah. That's another thing too.
It just gives you the best longevity and taste. Obviously, I mean, if something was over, and I was in dire need, it was, that was my only source. Then, if the can wasn't bloated, I would probably give it a try. But I would much rather prefer not to. So, my stuff at this point that was expired, I'm actually just getting rid of because I can afford to do so.
Okay. Yeah, I would just say rotate. If you have your own philosophy on when it comes to food being, out of date in terms of cans and you want to eat it, that's a good point. If the can's not bloated, if it's not dented, you open it up, there's nothing growing inside it. It smells okay, it tastes okay. You're probably going to be all right. Like I said, there was a time when there were no expiration dates put on cans. So, hey, joining us here, we got a little Mo Patri in the house. Mo, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Man, I forgot about the chat tonight. I was up cooking.
Oh, I thought you're busy at Costco buying toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and cases of water. That's where you're supposed to be.
Well, I bought them out yesterday.
Okay. Did you really go to a little buyers club yesterday or not?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I did, and it was crazy watching people just buy anything and everything they could get their hands on. So hey, feel free to join in. We'll give you a little plug. Is there anything you want to say before we get started? You want to plug a channel or anything at all? Anything you want to say or?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So the question I got for you is, what do you do for food and water preps in your home? What works for you, and whatever you're comfortable sharing?
We usually we'll go to Aldi's or someplace like that, and, get a lot of canned goods, a lot of non-perishables, and try to keep a lot of meat in the freezer. Buy in bulk, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Well, one thing I was talking about was how much the price of the Wise food buckets, or any of the food buckets, has basically doubled on Amazon in the last 4 weeks. If you go in to buy these things, I've got several of them that I got for $60 when they were on sale, like on a woot.com sale, but now they're $200 a bucket. I
thought about getting some of those. I looked, when all this coronavirus stuff started going on, and I was like, no, I probably got enough.
Yeah, if you take that $200 you would spend on that bucket and look at what you could really spend it on: bulk supplies, rice, beans, broth, bouillon, cans of maybe some beef stew. I mean, you could really stretch it out and probably get just as many servings. Now, granted, you're not going to get the 5 to 10 year shelf life that they talk about on those little food prepper buckets, but to be a start, you can still stretch your dollar, still get plenty of decent food that's going to last a long time too.
Yeah, I think I could probably get through this thing.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the main point of the discussion tonight is, if you had to go say 14 days, do you have the basics to go 14 days in your home? So if anybody's watching this tonight and they don't even have a 14-day supply of food or water or medical supplies, you need to do that much. And what I had shared earlier in Missouri with everyone is that I'd gone to the store to get a stock at our apartment, and we didn't have the basics. And I had to go to the store, and it was quantities limited. People were buying everything. Not a good feeling, not a comfortable feeling, especially when you're supposed to be the person that's always on point about staying prepped,
Yeah.
The other thing to kind of get into now is, when it comes to medical supplies, we have 2 really good first aid kits in our home. I've got stuff that has tourniquets and so on, emergency kits, quick clot, stuff like that. And then also full-on medical kits, because we live in Tornado Alley, right? I've seen cities get destroyed by tornadoes in Nebraska in my lifetime. And if I'd ever be in that and I couldn't get to emergency medical services and something would happen to me, have 2 decent first aid kits. I watched... what was her name? The Patriot Nurse, I think is what it was. I watched her channel, and she did a little dollar store haul where she spent $20 and got a really good med kit. So if you don't have at least a first aid kit in your home that goes beyond gauze and Band-Aids, watch her video. I basically copied her list and went to buy it and see if I could get the same thing, and did a video on that. I gave her credit for it. I said, here's the stuff that I bought. I went to my local Dollar Tree. Here's what I found. But things like some antiseptic, some iodine, some rubbing alcohol, basic medical supplies that people should have. What do you guys think? What do we need? What should be in the first aid kit in terms of spring storm season and or basic medical supplies if you can't go out to get them? What should every home have?
I think you should have a trauma kit included in your home supplies in some sort. Obviously not just a tourniquet, but sutures and possibly staples, and pray you never need them. But obviously, if it does come to that, it's much better to have it than need it. So
true,
especially if services are overwhelmed, or maybe you're stuck in your basement with your house collapsed on you. It might be 2 days before somebody comes. If there is a bad injury, that's the difference between life or death if you had that kit with you. So and you can get them quite affordable. To be quite honest, I just purchased a couple, and I think $23 was the biggest expense of the kit, and I got another one for like $14-15. And just to add as a backup, because I'm a believer you should have several first aid kits, especially if you have kids. You should keep one in a car. You should have one maybe your place of work, obviously at home. And if you do hiking and outdoors, and whatever bag you bring with you, if you're the type of person to bring a bag for just in case, obviously a decent kit in that as well for you or anybody else you may encounter.
Okay. Hey guys, looks like we got a little Rich White joining in. Rich, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Yeah, not too much. Just got home from Walmart. Had to go pick up some stuff get dinner done tonight. So.
Now, when you say pick up some stuff, were you buying some hand sanitizer, cases of water, and some toilet paper?
We bought toilet paper only because we needed toilet paper, not because we're hoarding it.
All right, so since you're joining in, let us know real quick. Food and water prepping, what works for you guys and your family? What do you guys typically do?
Let's see. We just got rid of one of our teenage daughter, and we have two 20-something living here. We don't have enough money to hoard food.
Okay.
As soon as food comes in the house, it goes down the toilets, if you catch my meaning.
Oh, no, I understand completely. Yeah. No, I got you, man. And again, like these little prepper buckets and stuff, they're not cheap, and they're basically doubled in price in the last 4 weeks. Yeah. So when I say prepper buckets, I mean like the Wise food buckets and Mountain House and stuff.
If he had those, they'd eat that too. So.
You have to, what's this cracking open Dad's bucket? Check out these new buckets Dad gets at the store, right? So basic medical supplies, Rich, what do you think? What should every home have just in terms of the basics for your first aid kit?
Well, you're talking about somebody whose wife used to work in the ED and currently still works at the hospital. So
okay,
what we have in our kit may not be something that the normal person would have, because she's got suture stuff and all kinds of stuff, because she knows how to do all that stuff.
Okay.
So,
there was
you want to have like maybe some tourniquets, some clotting agent, bandages, the actual bandages. I'm not talking band-aids. Like gauze pads. Preferably the non-stick kind, so they don't stick to the wound and rip them open if you have to change the dressings, stuff like that.
Gotcha. And another thing real quick before I introduce Night Strike, make sure you take just like a basic paramed course, just a simple course on how to properly use a tourniquet. At our school district, they taught us the Stop the Bleed course. We took that with the nurses, and it was fantastic. That's going to save somebody's life someday. And you need to know how to properly use a tourniquet and when to use it so that you don't cost that person their limb if they didn't need it. So you definitely need to make sure you've got basic training, whether it's just watching some sort of YouTube video on how to do it from a credible channel, right? Or getting the proper training. So in any kind of med kit, make sure you know, so when you open it up, you're not trying to sit there and read the instructions on how to use it when somebody's bleeding out. I would say
look in your area for places that are offering first aid classes. Some places I'll even have them free. Watching a YouTube video is no substitute because you can't actually practice when you're watching on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
When you go to one of the classes, they'll actually demonstrate and they'll walk around, make sure you're doing it right as you're practicing on the dummy. So, yeah, I would recommend not just watching a YouTube video, but actually going to one of the classes.
Yeah, you need to physically handle it and see what it actually encompasses and what it feels like and what you're going to have to deal with stuffing the wound with gauze and how to properly use a tourniquet and how to assess whether or not you actually need one. Those little 30-minute classes that they offer are fantastic. That's a really good program. They also sell med kits on that stopthebleed.org website. If you don't know where to go to get a trauma kit and you don't like the prices you're seeing online, they've got a good basic kit that has just the minimum that you need to get by. Quick lot, tourniquet, gauze, wrap. I mean, that's big. That's a biggie. So, hey, real quick here, we got Night Strike joining. And Night Strike, what's going on, man? How you doing? You good?
I'm good. Just
all right.
Being around. That's it.
Okay. So, Night Strike, do you guys do any food and water preps in your family at all?
We used to do a lot. Nowadays, not so much. We just kind of keep what we need on hand.
Okay. And one thing I kind of wanted to mention earlier is if you haven't got into it, I know it might seem like a grandma's trade, right? But canning food, I mean, it's, that stuff will last years and it's not too expensive to get into. You get your jars, you get the paraffin wax that you need to seal it. You follow the instructions on how to do it and just can up some basics. I mean, that right there is a big one because that'll survive, almost indefinitely, at least years. It's going to just last longer than canned food will. Jarred food is what I should be saying, but yeah.
We've got a room of which we put we have a couple shelves, and we've got nothing but canned food on those shelves.
Okay.
That's about as far as we go.
One of the things that you got to take into consideration too, especially if you're in a survival situation, is you've got to slow down, because just because you can, you shoot a deer, and just because you know how to skin a deer, if you're skinning it real fast and then you skin yourself, you're in trouble. Little tiny accidents, you twist an ankle because you weren't paying attention because, I walk through these woods every day. I know where I'm going. Well, the one day that you're not paying close enough attention, you're going to turn your ankle. And any little injury is going to be massive in a survival situation, not the lights are out for 2 days. I'm talking about like an actual survival situation.
Yeah. I was deer hunting probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I don't know if I still have a scar from it or not, just a little tiny one. But I was walking across a fallen tree, and had kind of lost my balance a little bit. And I was going across to an area and had put my hand down, and there was a stick sticking out, went right into my arm. And I was like, oh, this is wonderful. I'm basically, a couple miles away from my vehicle, and I did have my little med kit on me. And like an idiot, I did pull the branch out because I thought I probably should have left it and broke it and went back immediately. But I did pull it out. Luckily, I didn't hit an artery. But, I mean, right then and there, I've got blood starting to come out. I'm like, oh, God, really? So, I stopped and got myself patched up and took myself back in and went to the clinic and did my deer hunt. But, here I am. I know this area. I've walked it several times. I've been out there a million times, right? I've got the boots and I've got the gear, right? It just happened to be a warm day, so I didn't have my coat on. It was a warm Nebraska fall morning for the hunt, right? And that happened, and, oh, God, it was not fun to be out that kind of a situation. I mean, that doesn't really tie in with what we're saying, but having those basics on you because you don't know when you're going to need it. Plus, let's talk about a coronavirus situation. You might be in an area where they're advising people not to go to the hospital or to not go to the ERs or not to go to emergency entrance because things could be overwhelmed, or they don't want you there unless you've got the virus only. Little emergencies, you got to take care of yourself. So little things like that, these are things that you need to watch out for. So again, basic medical kit.
I have a very important question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
What temperature is the warm Kansas fall?
Probably Nebraska. It was going to be like it was like 34, 35 in the morning, and it was going to be like 50 in the afternoon. It was the first day of open season for deer, and it was one of those just freakish warm falls that we get. And it was like a 55-degree day. I didn't even probably shouldn't have been hunting deer because trying to hang it out to dry to cool that night was going to be really hard to do. But I went out anyway. But it didn't matter.
I just thought I'd ask because your warm might not necessarily be my warm because remember, I was in the South.
Yeah, no, for me, comfortably warm is probably 40. At that point, it's kind of shorts and kind of, hoodie weather for outside if you're going to be working. 45. The thing is, when you deal with really cold temperatures, when it gets up to 40 or gets up to 45 or gets above freezing, it feels warm. 35 degrees of the sun feels awesome if you've been dealing with 0 or 10 or 15 degrees, right? Anybody lives in a cold climate. It's not. It doesn't get humid here until August. July and August are probably two of our heaviest months, and it's nothing like the humidity you guys deal with down south. I mean, Our worst days is probably your every day of June, July, and August, right? We don't get these swamp, butt thing going on like you mentioned before, but yeah.
I asked this because this ties into another thing about prepping. Mm-hmm. Be aware of your climate. Always be aware of your climate because, storing stuff in a humid environment is harder than storing stuff in, say, a dry environment in Arizona or in the Southwest.
This is true. I mean, here in Nebraska, we get the extremes. We've got the hot and the cold. So you want to make sure you've got kind of a 365 prep. What are you going to do if the power goes out and it's freezing outside or it's sub-zero? Do you have a fireplace? Do you have a wood supply on, ready to go? Do you have a pot? Do you have a wood-burning stove? A lot of people have those out here too. Or if you live in the other end, if it's going to be hot, it's going to be 90, 100 degrees. Do you have adequate hydration supplies if you need to? Are you ready for that? If you've got a nasty storm that rolls through and knocks over the power lines, you got no electricity, there's no air conditioning. Do you have a way to stay comfortable? What are you going to do to stay cool, right? Where are you going to go? Especially if it's 95 degrees out and it's humid and there's no breeze and it's just like Thailand outside, right? What are you going to do? So again, you should really just sit down and write out, okay, what are my basic needs? Am I ready for this? Am I ready for that? Do I have everything that I need, right?
Now, I do want to mention that I do have several generators. I've got 2. I've also got water access because there's out in the way back of my property where I shoot, there's a river back there. And again, on the side of my house, there's a creek that runs straight all the way down my property. So if I need to get water from those sources, I can. Yes, I'm going to have to filter the hell out of those both water sources, but I have water sources available. Mm-hmm.
Now, let's shift over to the coronavirus-specific prep because we've talked about food, we've talked about water, we've talked about basic med supplies, right? Masks, they're getting expensive. Hopefully, communities have them to pass out if necessary. If you're going to use an N95 mask, make sure you know how to use it, how to dispose of it, when to use it. It's not just run around and wear it all day kind of thing, right? Know what the right time is to actually get it out and start using it, how to handle it when you're done with it. World Health Organization's got some decent videos on how to properly use an N95 face mask if you need to. what was it? Billy the cab driver says, got your PPE, guys. I don't hear much about gas masks with NBC filters, which offer the best protection, and they last a lot longer than N95s. Gas masks, anybody want to chime in on that one? We looking at like those Israeli gas masks? What, I mean, obviously you're going to want something that's going to be able to keep out the nasty stuff if you have to leave where you are and you're going to be going through a hot zone.
I would just say I think when it comes to a gas mask, you're looking at a different level. They are good, don't get me wrong, but for the average person, most people are funny about wearing the N95 around. So I doubt people are going to go pump gas in a gas mask. So, I think they do have a place. Depending on what you're doing or what you're expecting. But as far as coronavirus, I don't see too much need for that myself. But that's just me. It doesn't seem too practical.
I'm not shaving my beard, so I'm not wearing a mask.
Yeah, I know, me too, right? It's like, oh man, there goes my airtight seal. I know I'm gonna have to quickly shave it out before I put one on,
Right.
I mean, it'd be okay to buy one and have one, especially if it's okay to leave it stored for 15, 20 years, right?
Definitely. I think, it's always better to have than need. If you do get a mask or it gets to the point where you feel like you're going to wear a mask, I would state that would be a point where you're concerned, maybe due to somebody else's health who you're next to, or maybe just going in large crowded areas. If it does become a pandemic or an outbreak in your area, I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing things safe. That's why people have insurance. That's why people take umbrellas on a cloudy day. So, that's all your personal preference and where your line is. But we're all responsible. When you think of prepping, we're all responsible for our family who's around us. So,
yeah.
Even though it might not seem to be too relevant to you, I mean, you got to keep in mind your kids or parents as well. So I'm sure everybody would hate to be the messenger in that sense. So
yeah, this is true. This is true, man. And that's another thing. You throw the family dynamic in there. Do you have enough supplies for you and the kids to go 14 days, 30 days, you and the wife, or the wife and the kids, or whatever, right? Do you have enough? If you don't, I mean, there's a good chance in your lifetime you're not going to have to deal with any kind of a situation like that. We would hope that things don't get any worse than it currently is. But yeah, for specific, if we're also talking about having to deal with the flu, I don't know if it would be one of those things where it'd be mandatory if you do in fact test. At some point, I got a feeling it's going to just be the norm that you stay home for 14 days if you in fact test positive for coronavirus. I think that it'll spread to a point where it's going to be understood that you're going to get it, or you're going to carry it, or you're going to pass it on. You're going to encounter the flu-like symptoms. And maybe if you have an at-home test, you test positive, or just the normal or the expected normal is that you stay home for so many days. Right now with influenza B, they're sending people home at my workplace for a minimum of 5 days. If you test positive for influenza B, you have to stay home. This is pre-coronavirus. This is early flu season stuff, right? So yeah. What's that?
Does B spread worse than A?
I think B is maybe the more severe of the two. I really can't tell you. I don't know enough about the influenza to comment. Do you guys know at all? A versus B? Is B more of the stomach diarrhea thing, or what? Is that the more severe, and or is B the body aches? Maybe it depends on which one's more contagious, which one has the more dangerous effects for a younger population or older population.
Yeah, they're both respiratory illnesses, so neither one actually affects stomach. People say they got the flu and they're talking about running to the toilet. That's a totally different thing. That I don't know how that came to be represented as being the flu, because it's not influenza.
Well, I've had situations where I've had the body chills, the body aches, running a fever, vomiting, and diarrhea all in one little spat,
Yeah, I get the man flu all the time.
Yeah, that's something different. That when you have the flu, that's upper respiratory. That's head congestion, chest congestion. That doesn't affect your digestive system at all.
Okay.
But it can cause body aches. It will definitely cause fever and all that. One's stronger than the other. Which one's which, I don't remember right now. But it's an upper respiratory infection, just like what they're calling coronavirus, which really is a misnomer anyway, because it's just one version of coronavirus. There's umpteen different strains of coronavirus. This just happens to be one of them.
The one that's gaining popularity this season, right? And here's the funny thing: is it could disperse in the next 90 days, right? What's that?
Yeah. SARS was a version of coronavirus. MERS, if you remember that,
they've reported it's a couple strains at this point.
multiple different versions of this. If they want to be more technically correct, they would be calling this like the Wuhan flu or something.
Yeah, or COVID-19 or whatever names are coming up with. Yeah. Oh, the nurse, we're being corrected here.
No, that was my daughter.
Nah, that's all good.
And yeah, I was watching a video where they were talking about that earlier, but if you start calling it the Wuhan flu, people start calling you a racist. So, but every other illness has been fine. I mean, look, Spanish flu.
Does that make you?
Spain, you know?
Yeah.
Virus, named for a river in the former Zaire, which is now one of the Congo countries.
Chicken pox. What are we discriminating against Gary next, or what? You know?
Yeah, yellow fever. I mean, yellow fever is named because it came from Asia. That was, if anything would have been racist, it would be calling it yellow fever because the people's skin color.
Associating it with the skin color. Yeah. Hey, Kingpin, what were you going to say?
Oh, another going back to knowing your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that nobody in the chat or in the panel has this issue, but drugs and alcohol. If the survival situation comes, people who have DTs from alcohol and can't get them are going to be desperate. People who are, ill off of opioids are going to be seriously desperate. So you gotta. It's definitely just another reason to know who your neighbors are and kind of what they're into. I mean, most of your neighbors aren't going to be like, "Yeah, I'm going to go shoot some heroin right now. I'll call you later." But
you want to join me? You want to share a spoon? Right? No.
There's going to be you can't get heroin, and you start getting sick off heroin. You're going to do some really desperate stuff.
It's a good idea. Again, knowing the neighbors is just as good as knowing what you got in your inventory, man. E Honda says, "Hey, I'm just eating dinner," or something along those. I guess we're making him sick just talking about it. Yellow fever, demonetized. Midnight Range. This podcast was demonetized before it even went live. I had the little yellow flag on there for limit or no ads a long time ago.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed that everybody that puts the word coronavirus in the title of their video has that little tag stuck to the bottom of their video? From the, I guess it's the health department or the CDC that you can click on it and get information about the coronavirus.
Oh, really? No, I didn't realize that. Does that mean like in the title of my video or whatever? It's been attached on there now?
I haven't noticed it on yours, but the last coronavirus video I watched was from Ozark Yeoman, and right at the bottom of his video is a big old panel box that talks about like medical talk about coronavirus.
Yeah,
so if you put coronavirus in your title, YouTube's going to tag it with that little thing.
Be ready for it. Just hand them Tylenol, guy, the comment says. Basic pain meds are a good idea to have that on standby. And again, I'm trying to combine this with a, kind of a springtime, a prepper chat in terms of food, water, basic medical supplies. Obviously, firearms and ammunition is going to be a big one. Make sure you've got enough for you and your family. And that's just, now I'm talking more for looters. I'm talking more for self-preservation and things along those lines, right? Guy that comments says body cakes. Body cakes? What's a body cake? I don't know. Ecoda says cash no longer safe. I was thinking about that because the stuff that I paid for at Costco, I paid cash. And I wonder if those cashiers got to take a hit off the hand sanitizer bottle, every time that they do a cash transaction. Could cash be circulating the illness? I don't know. It's hard telling. Yo.
All I have to say is, did you play that documentary video game called The Division?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Both.
That's the reason why.
It circulated on cash, didn't it? Was that the reason why in the video game?
The virus was circulated on cash.
It's just a conspiracy to get us to quit using cash. There you go, Honda. There's Sunday's topic right there. The conspiracy to push us over to plastic, right? It's a combination of feeling less pain when you don't pay with cash, and 2, cash to circulate the illnesses when necessary. Yep. And then to move it out if you need to. So there you go.
Well, cash is probably the most filthy thing that all of us touch on a regular basis, and no one ever considers it. There's every kind of virus and disease on money. There's every kind of drug residue on money. Anything that you can think of that you don't want near your body is on your money, in your pocket right now. Everyone.
Unless you get fresh cash from the bank, even then it's going to have some human contact on it, right? You get fresh, crisp, brand new bills, but that's who does that.
As soon as you touch it, all your germs are on it.
Yeah. And how many times do people lick it before they count it out? They lick their thumb before I should go get the hand sanitizer. I just lick my thumb.
Lord. Yeah, that's like the woman giving the speech. Don't go touching your face. Licks your finger to turn the page.
Now, I will say this. I think you do need some exposure to illnesses. You need to be, I mean, because otherwise, if you're, I've heard that one of the reasons why kids have the problems that they do is because they don't get those exposure to the germs and bacteria that we did back in the day, or the things that keep your immune system. I'm surrounded by sick kids 185 days a year, and I don't really get ill that often. If I do, it's pretty rare. So I think your immune system needs some sort of exposure, to that thing in order for you to stay healthy. Now, I don't know. On the other hand, I've got a close friend who works in an office and he gets sick a lot. So maybe it's just the environment, maybe it's the filtration system. I don't know. But I guess we're kind of straying away from the topic, which it doesn't matter. But again, food, ammunition, water, medical supplies, make sure you got the basics, people. Don't be trying to make a little trip to Costco at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday and there's nothing there when you get there, or its quantities limited at any store that you go to, or you just simply can't find it. So, all right. Anything else you guys want to say about the little prepping for any kind of situation? My whole idea was prepping for, say, a 14-day stay at home. Oh, and if you are prepping for coronavirus, right, we're talking you might be dealing with a flu situation. Make sure you got some sort of a thermometer in the med kit. Make sure you've got plenty of items to keep yourself hydrated. Anytime I've ever come down with a flu or face dehydration, I like to do like a 50-50 Gatorade water mix. I don't know if that's good or not, but it's got some electrolytes in it, right? It's got electrolytes.
How do you feel about,
yeah, go ahead.
How do you feel about hoarding? Now, not necessarily hoarding like toilet paper in your house, but like, say you got that corner store that nobody knows about and nobody ever goes to, and Fred behind the counter, by first name because you're the only customer. Do you tell people, hey, the corner store down on 3rd Street has got a bunch of stuff, or do you keep that to yourself?
Well, I mean, obviously, I would like to think I would have what I need. Obviously, I'm a human being. I've got self-preservation motives like a lot of people. You're going to get yours, right, to keep yourself sustained. I'm not saying I do the immoral thing, but I think if you have what you need, then it's okay, obviously, to tell other people that it's there if they don't know. Where can I go buy it? Where can I go buy it? So, I just think people kind of naturally have that self-preservation instinct, whether we like it or not, unless you're an honest, good Samaritan and all you care about is other people more than yourself. I think that it'd be immoral to not say anything to help other people, but yeah, exactly. On the other end, I think that if you're responsible, take care of yourself, you get yourself set up, then you can do the, work for the greater good of society. But that's,
I ran into something like this back in 2000. When was Hurricane Gustav? 2008, 2009. Remember that? Anyways, I was in the guard and we went down there to do some security. And there was like an Ace Hardware, and the guy knew people, and he was letting them get propane, with other people still waiting. He was letting all his friends. So I've kind of ran into this, and people don't like that.
Yeah, this is true. Like I said, things kind of change. Your attitude kind of changes when you're in a situation where your basic needs aren't being met, right? I mean, you got to worry about those things, your self-preservation and food and water and fun stuff like that. So, what do we have here? Tara Smith says both sides, World War I had Spanish flu, a form of swine flu that came from Kansas. No one wanted the other side to know they had it. Spain was neutral. Their media could talk, hence the Spanish flu. Oh, interesting. Okay. SS Pond says, love my SpaghettiOs. There you go. Stock up on your SpaghettiOs. You should be all set. What else we got here? Some crazy stuff. Always have Ear Pro for prepping 14 days with the wife. Ear Pro is always a good thing to have on standby too if you need it. Earplugs, obviously, right?
You gotta have comfort foods. It's really good to stock up on the stuff that's high nutritional value and lasts long, but also don't disregard a box of Pop-Tarts, because if you're stuck somewhere and you're all alone and you're feeling crappy because the world's coming to an end and all this kind of stuff and everybody's dying, breaking out a s'mores Pop-Tart or a strawberry frosted Pop-Tart might calm you down a little bit and make you feel normal again for a second.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
At that point, I might eat a Pop-Tart.
Nobody's going to care, man. Marco says, keep Sterno around. That's a good one. Get the sugar-free or electrolyte. Salt tabs are a good idea. Propane's a good one. Have yourself a couple extra cans of propane. Definitely. Propane, Bobby, says Honda 720. I have a few cans of Spam with bacon. There you go. My wife won't eat it, but I like it. A true Minnesota Stew Spam is fantastic. Spam's a good idea. Home security, yeah. Make sure you got your home security plan. Know what you're doing to protect the homestead. Stew keeps frozen for weeks and tastes better. second or third time that you warm it up. There you go. Peanut butter, rice and beans, and jerky. Pemmican. I haven't made that since grade school. So G23, man, you might want to calm down. I have no idea what you're talking about. So, all right. I think we're going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. Anything else you guys want to say about the whole prepping idea, the basics of prepping, things people should know?
Where was the med kit at you were talking about?
For med kits, we were mentioning, I had said that I had just simply gone to Dollar Tree and bought everything I needed for a good size med kit, but then also consider getting a serious trauma kit, something with a tourniquet, quick clot, gauze, bandage wraps, and so on. We kind of discussed some of the basics, maybe having a couple of them, maybe keep one in your vehicle and keep one in the house. We have like a small one in the garage. We have a more serious one here in the house in case something would happen, and then I keep one in my vehicle when I travel.
Yeah, that's something definitely I need to do.
If you've never been interested in prepping before, or you just think only crazy people do that because they're the ones that get the most attention, and this makes you decide you want to start prepping. After this is over and done with and people have forgotten about it and we just move on to the next end of the world kind of thing to prep for, you'll find that if you stick with it, you'll be more prepared, you'll be more in the know, you'll be better at making plans, you'll be better at thinking ahead. Maybe there's something that you learn to prep for this time around that gets you into it, and next time everything that you've done this time doesn't matter, or there's very few things that cross over, and the next time you learn a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and the more prepared you are, the better. But just because you're prepared doesn't mean that you're crazy.
I mean, look, people, it's okay to have a 30-day food supply and a couple cases of water. There's nothing wrong with that. You might say, well, you're just being paranoid. No, I was dealing with a realistic situation on Saturday where I might not be able to get those basic supplies. I didn't like that feeling. You guys that deal with hurricanes or tornado seasons know what I'm talking about. When those things aren't there and you're not ready, or you got to go to the store and get them, and the rest of the town's going to that store, they might not be there, and who knows what's going to happen, right? I'm not talking about threats to your life or anything. I'm just saying having to pay higher prices or having to go all across town to get this or get that. So it's okay to have these things. It's just normal preparation for life, right? Life happens. And if you don't have to worry about those things, I mean, if this whole situation that I was talking about, if we were moving here now and I already had all this stuff here, I would have been fine. But it's like, oh, great, now I got to go there and hope they have this stuff that my wife wants me to get. And these are basic things we don't have at the place we're going to be living at. Not a good feeling to have, right? So that's one of those kind of realistic little situations I got to experience firsthand last weekend. So
yeah, well, we were just over Walmart. The toilet paper selection over there is almost none. I mean, people are just going nuts buying up all the toilet paper.
The real risk is going to be all the like the public stalls, like at the parks and stuff. People are just going to be just ripping into those things with crowbars and everything, and the bathrooms and in stores and stuff. People are just start taking them out of there and hoarding them, and
They already are.
Yeah, that's a problem. You have to get your sheets at the front counter, right? People are taking their own. They get a holster for your roll of toilet paper.
See how progressive the people in California
I see.
And see, we make fun of those progressives in California, but see, they're way ahead of us. They're already pooping on the street, so they're used to it.
I see it as the other way around. I think it's, could be deemed an issue if you don't have some basics in your household. Again, I think that falls back, especially if you're a parent. I mean, you have responsibilities and things don't always work out. So putting that faith in the store is always going to be open for some reason, whether the heaters are down, your car is broke, whatever. I mean, I think it's just foolish. It's been known that's how people got to this point, by having pantries and, kind of the old ways, thinking ahead, preparing for storm season. It's just common forethought. Like, you're kind of foolish to just assume everything's going to be fine. It's ignoring history. I mean, in my opinion, it's ridiculous that people look at this as a bad thing. I think like shows like Doomsday Preppers, I think a lot of people sensationalize things, try to show the worst of some things. Some people take things a little far, but there's nothing wrong. I mean, the thing that could be wrong is not having something. I mean, who wants to say, I wish I had food for my kid? I mean, that's just ridiculous, or my wife or whatever. So to me, it's just part of your job. You're crazy if you don't do it, in my opinion. To a point.
Oh yeah, dude, I agree. And here, this is like a last ditch thing to keep in mind. And Screaming Skull Saloon points something out here. I always forget to mention this in our prepping chats. 55 gallons of water in your water heater, you can drink it. So, well, unless you can't drink your tap water, okay. But if you can't drink your tap water, you've got that water heater. You want to make sure you shut it off. Obviously, turn it off so it doesn't turn on or heat back up if the power comes on and the water lines are down or whatever. But yeah, you got a water heater. You've got a fresh water supply. There's a spigot at the bottom. You might get some sediment in it. You can just run that through a coffee filter just to get the basics out of it, but you can drink it. That's something important. You don't have to die of thirst in your home if you don't have bottled water or running taps. You've got a water heater, right? Unless you happen to run it out, taking a shower, bath, or whatever. But that's something to think about. So, anything else, guys? Any other suggestions? Basic prep supplies. Anything else we want to mention? There's a lot of mention about batteries and matches, some sort of fire source. Kind of depends on your environment if you got to keep warm or not. A good battery powered radio is nice to have in case you ever need it. Some little jumper packs, like those little solar charging rechargeable battery packs, are nice to have one around the house. You can plug your phone into it and recharge it if you need to. Not that there's a guarantee that that's going to work, but there's a lot of apps on your phone you could use even without cell phone service. Basic things like that. So, and I don't really want to get into like radios and walkie-talkies and stuff. I mean, that's something where you could take it to whatever level you really want to. You can really start to drop the money and so on. So, okay, let's go ahead and we'll move on to our second topic for this evening. This was a request from Storm and Norman Gunworks, I believe. He just wanted kind of our thoughts on the H&K 4.6 by 30 millimeter round, right? So now we've been talking about some of these kind of obscure Wildcat rounds, which may or may not have a lot of application, which may or may not offer a lot of firearms for you to purchase. But I think it's kind of neat to look at this one because we're kind of in this like 5.7, 22 mag, 30 whatever caliber phase that we've been going through for the last month on this channel. And I just want to give you guys a quick history on the H&K 4.6. We'll talk about what firearms are available for it and kind of what your thoughts are on this round. This is another one of those kind of PDW rounds that was essentially developed as a competitor to the FN 5.7. And in my opinion, it'd be most effective in something full automatic for up close and personal self-defense or from defense of whatever you need to, right? So H&K 4.6, let me just give you a quick and dirty little history on it here. It's 4.6 by 30 millimeters. It's a cartridge. It's a type of ammunition primarily used in the H&K MP7 personal defense weapon, which I do not believe is available for civilian purchase. It's designed to minimize weight and recoil while increasing penetration of body armor. It features a bottleneck case and a pointed steel core brass jacketed bullet. Now, bullet grain weights are going to vary anywhere between 26 and 42 grains, and velocity can go anywhere from basically 2,300 feet per second to 2,400 feet per second, 2,000 feet per second, with energy levels that are going to vary between 330 foot-pounds of energy all the way up to 400. So it does have some potential, obviously, for self-defense. It was introduced in 1999. It was designed as a competitor to FN's 5.7 cartridge, which we just talked about a couple weeks ago. So compared to standard intermediate cartridges, one can carry more 4.6 by 30 millimeter ammunition due to the lighter weight and relative small dimensions of the cartridge. Here, let me just go ahead and swap over real quick to screen share for you guys. You can see this here real quick. All right, let's share it, and I'll show you guys some pictures of it if you've never seen it before. Let's see where we at here. Also, due to the lighter weight of the bullet, aiming in rapid fire is much easier as recoil depends much on the weight of the bullet. Testing shows that because of the smaller diameter and high projectile velocity of the round, body armor penetration is higher than that of traditional handgun projectiles. So again, you're getting essentially rifle velocities, which we know velocity is the big it's going to be the big element that's going to penetrate the body armor, right? A series of tests performed by NATO in the UK and France indicates that 5.7 was a superior cartridge. The results of the NATO test were analyzed by a group of experts from France, the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and the group's conclusion that 5.7 was undoubtedly the more efficient cartridge. So maybe that's why we see more application of 5.7, more firearms available in 5.7, and really not much out there in the civilian market for 4.6. Unless I'm missing a new gun that's been introduced for 4.6, I really can't comment on it. Among other points, the NATO group cited superior effectiveness for the 5.7 against unprotected targets and equal effectiveness against protected targets. I guess body armor is what they're referring to. It's also cited less sensitivity to extreme temperatures for 5.7 and cited a greater potential risk of barrel erosion with the 4.6. So it must be such a high velocity round that it wears out the barrel It's going to take out your rifling quicker if you have to use it for sustained fire. In addition, the group pointed out that 5.7 is close to the 5.56 NATO cartridge by design and manufacture process, allowing it to be manufactured on existing production lines. The group also pointed out that 5.7 weapons are more mature than 4.6 weapons, and the 5.7 FN 5.7 pistol was already in production at that time, while the H&K UCP pistol was only an early concept. However, the German delegation and others rejected the NATO recommendation that 5.7 be standardized, and as a result, the standardization process was indefinitely halted, which is why I think you don't see 5.7 being the replacement for 9mm, because Germany essentially didn't agree to it. Of course, they were pushing, the 4.6 round. Actual weapons that are available that shoot the 4.6, we've got the H&K MP7, H&K UCP, which I think is also the MP7, if I'm not mistaken. I could be totally wrong on that. The ST Kinetic CPW, it's a submachine gun basically, and then there's a TVGK and a VBR CQBW, and there's no links or pictures of it. So that's basically it. Now, one thing, here's a picture if you guys can see this on the screen share. 4.6 is on the left, 5.7's in the middle, and 30 carbines on the right. So you can kind of see the differences between it. So yeah, 4.6 kind of has almost like a little 22 on steroids kind of look to it basically. I guess I don't even know what the 4.6 millimeters, what that is an inch equivalent. I mean, it's a hot round, don't get me wrong, but again, it's going to be more suited for, full auto as a PDW than anything else. Now, in terms of ammo prices, if you wanted to get 4.6, say you're in law enforcement, you've got an MP7. Ammo, surprisingly, is more available than you would think, considering the lack of firearms for the civilian market. Going over to AmmoSeek, we've got some Fiocchi, 33 cents a round if you buy a case of 1,000. It's very comparable to 5.7 in price. In fact, I think it's a little bit cheaper if you're just looking at it. Box of 50 for $17. That's about what I paid for the Tokarev round, the 7.62 Tokarev that I bought in my most recent test. 40-round boxes are $14.39 for cellular and below. So you've got a variety of ammo, grain weights, options out there if you happen to get into 4.6. Now, do I think it'll really take off as, say, like in the civilian market? I don't know. I mean, the fact that the ammo is more or less going to have to be ordered, I don't think I've ever seen 4.6 on the shelves, and I probably wouldn't anyway. Makes me wonder if we'll ever see a civilian firearm in 4.6. There might be some offerings out there where you can swap out a barrel or whatnot. Let's see, the parent case for that, I was going to maybe try to mention what that is. I can't remember what the bullet diameter is, 0.183 of an inch. Yeah, go ahead, man.
The UCP was supposed to be a sidearm pistol, which was supposed to complement the MP7.
Okay, because they have the same picture. Oh, there it is. Okay, my bad on that, guys. UCP handgun. You're right. I guess it said pistol, and I thought, well, maybe the MP7 was offered in some sort of a pistol format.
Scroll down on that page.
Let me go back to.
It says right there, in July 2009, HK's USA's president Wayne Weber indicated that the UCP project was canceled because HK felt it did not provide adequate ballistics in handgun form.
Yeah, semi-automatic is what they're saying, right?
Mm.
Yeah, and so, maybe they make it as a machine pistol. So it does kind of have a little bit of an FN 5.7 or a Ruger 57 kind of feel to it. Kind of long, elongated, wide magazine, front to back, wide magazine well, larger grip. So there's the UCP. So I guess this never went into production, or did it go into production? Yeah. Do you guys know?
No, it never went into production.
Okay. So delayed blowback operating principle, kind of like the Tokarev or the CZ52, right? So it's a neat looking gun. I mean, who knows? Maybe they will. It'd be interesting if they put it into production as a competitor to FN or to the Ruger 57, but I highly doubt H&K would do that. They've got their military and police contracts they don't have to worry about. Yeah.
If they were going to do that, they could decide to do a double take if 5.7 gets really popular and just redesign that for 5.7 and you're done.
They would never do that, though. H&K would never do a 5.7.
I know they wouldn't do that because that would actually probably make them money. But you know how H&K is. If it's not something they came up with, they don't want to do it.
Well, and it's the fact that they created a round that was supposed to be a rival to the 5.7 would be kind of a no-no for them when you think about it.
Of which, if you read the article, they felt it did not provide adequate ballistics in a handgun.
Yes.
Now, I didn't dispute that they would never do 5.7. People said that HK would never do 357 SIG, but HK makes a 357 SIG barrel for the USP.
Okay. Well, this is true. I'm just thinking that round was kind of the rival for the 5.7, and that was kind of the falling out on trying to restandardize the NATO cartridge. So that's what I'm thinking. But who knows? I mean, yeah, from a marketing perspective, if they got that thing into production, I guarantee you people would buy it if they put it in 5.7. Redo the mags or whatever they need to do, whatever necessary changes, and start selling it. People would buy because it's it's an H&K, and people are fans of HK. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting little round though. So, hey guys, any thoughts on that at all? H&K 4.6. Do you guys have any experience with it at all? Have you ever had a chance to try an MP7 or ever had a chance to handle one?
Nope.
No.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, I read about it Recoil magazine like 5 years ago, I think. And that's like the last time I think I'd ever seen anything of it. I know it's in video games. It's in some of the Call of Duty games and stuff. But
the closest I've gotten to it is using one in Battlefield 4.
So yeah, your kids probably know how to operate it better than you do. Oh yeah, I can field strip it here. Let me show you. That's what I do in the game. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to field strip anything in the game. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah. That's what they should do. They should put field stripping and cleaning in the video games now for like unlocks and stuff like that. There you go. Yeah, exactly. And then you got to do it blindfolded. There you go.
Get a second career as a programmer.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Right on. Well, I dabble in computers a little bit, so Oh man, so H&K 4.6. I don't know. I mean, if they would come out with the firearm in it, there's a chance that people might find an interest in it because you've got people buying, 5.7 that normally wouldn't, but they're getting it because the firearm prices have gone down a little bit. You've got the Ruger option now. Ammo availability is gonna increase as the handgun increases in popularity and the demand goes up for it. You're gonna maybe see more companies starting to load it. The fact that you've got the 223 parent case for 5.7 makes it not impossible to manufacture. Center fire. So, primers and so on, it's reloadable.
And I just don't see that round becoming that popular, to be honest. Because, like you said, you got 5.7's already going to beat it to the market. 5.7, I'm not all that enthused by 5.7 either. For that. And then you got the 22 TCM. So, I mean, if the HK brings that to market now, they're going to be too late to the game. There's already 2 rounds out.
Especially when they try to push something for HK prices,
Yeah, and you got 2 rounds out before it that are in the same category that perform better.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I just don't see the point in them doing it. They, like was mentioned, they'd be better off just converting it to 5.7 or 22 TCM and going with it at that rate. From that point of view, if they don't want to do 5.7, put it in 22 TCM.
So there was a question about
buy a 5.7.
What's that? Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Anybody in here going to buy a Ruger 5.7?
If they go down in price, I'd consider picking one up. I mean, I'm not going to pay $600 or $700 for one. I think maybe they'll go down to $499 or less, and I'd consider picking one up. I'd buy one used because Rugers generally have a decent warranty to them. I mean, the ammo's expensive, but I did get a chance to shoot a PS90. I borrowed one from Stan, and it was a lot of fun to shoot. 5.7 is a fun round. I think it's a cool looking gun. I like having the 20 rounds on tap. I think that's pretty neat. Just maybe, I don't want to call it a novelty gun, but I would probably keep one around as a bit of a range toy, possibly. But I don't know if I can see myself at this point. You could. I mean, it's going to do the job. I would, at a certain range, but for the size of it, I'd rather just pack my G17. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Pretty big.
It's a large handgun. You got a large barrel on it. You got a large mag well on it. If you've ever held the Keltec, the PMR 30, is that the 22 mag that they sell? That thing's got a very deep. It's kind of hard to hold on to because it's got such a large grip on it. Fun to shoot, very low recoil. I mean, but still,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see a compact or a subcompact in 5.7. See how they would perform.
Let's see. Somebody had a question out there. I think it was midnight range. The differences in the velocity of the 4.6 versus the 5.7. Let me just look that up real quick for a second here, and then we can kind of end on that note because what is the big? We talked about 5.7 before we did get into the velocities and stuff like that, but just as a head-to-head comparison here, let me just bring up some sample. I'll try to find an ammo that's going to be comparable for grain weight because I mean, really, what it comes down to is velocity and energy. If that H&K says that it doesn't have the power to work the way it needs to out of a pistol, right? Then are they doubting its ability to stop a target? So let's just go head to head. If we take a 4.6, let's see, there's 26, 31, 42. Okay, 31 grains. If we do a 31 grain copper plated steel bullet, it's called DM11. It's going to go at 2362 feet per second, and you're going to have 382 foot-pounds of energy from a 31 grain pill. Okay. Now, if we go over and get the equivalent in 5.7, we are looking at 2,350 foot-pounds or feet per second and 394 foot-pounds of energy. So, yeah, the 4.6 and the 5.7 are very comparable in terms of velocity and energy. I'm seeing a higher velocity with the 23 grain 5.7 versus the 26 grain. I guess that would make sense, but man, they're still very comparable. They're both between 300 and 400 foot-pounds of energy. Yeah, I mean, they're almost ballistics are within like 100 feet per second and within 50 foot-pounds of energy between each other, which is a big deal when you're only talking 350 to 400 foot-pounds of energy, out of the barrel. Give me 1 second here. I gotta hang up the phone. Okay, so yeah, I mean, honestly, midnight range, I'd say they're pretty much almost spot on head to head. I mean, there's very little difference between the two. FN just seems to have a little more support. They've got firearms available in the civilian market, which is why we're seeing it. Plus, you got Ruger offering the Ruger 57, and that has a lot to do with it too. So, all right. Okay, guys. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and let the panel just go ahead and say a few words, and then we will go ahead and call it. So, Squib, we'll end up with you. Anything you want to say in closing?
Good night.
Rock on, man. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, new to the panel tonight, New York Outcast. Anything you want to say before we go?
Just thanks for having me, and everybody wash your hands and normal, practices. So.
Right on, right on. Yep. And don't pay $45 for a bottle of Purell, right?
Yeah.
See if there's some cheaper alternatives out there that you can use if you can dilute a few things and make it work. So, yeah. All right, Kingpin, anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good conversation. Thanks for everybody out in the chat. And go check out G23's channel. Sub to him. He's gonna be doing live streams. I think he did one last Saturday for 3 hours. He had Seven Wonders and I as panelists. So he plans on trying at least to do one every Saturday around 5 p.m. Eastern. So go sub to his channel, hit that bell, and join the conversation.
Okay, G23, we'll check you out, man. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Rich White, anything to say before we go?
Yeah, real quick, going back to the whole thing about finding stuff in stores. My wife just told me that the Walmart, they have signs up on certain things because they caught people from New York City coming down here to buy stuff to take back up there to sell it. So they put a limit on how much of different things you can buy.
Oh, my God. Wow. Okay, high population areas. Can you get the basic supplies you need in those areas? Understand, higher population, higher demand. You might not have additional facilities available to buy those supplies. Ooh, not good. Not good. Outcast, are you causing that problem up there? Are you coming all the way down here and buying this stuff and then taking it back with you and selling it at Central Park or what?
No, it's not me. I don't want to be around people.
Peddling rolls of sky tissue on the corner, yeah.
But there's definitely reports of, restaurants here and stuff having toilet paper and stuff stolen. So people are trying to keep an eye out, and some places that don't normally request keys are now due to this, I believe. So.
I was kind of joking about that a little while ago, but it's really happening. So, geez.
Yep, it actually is.
And my wife also just told me that they caught a patient trying to steal a box of their masks.
Ooh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, it's just people just get irrational and stupid when stuff like this happens. They don't think enough anyway. And then you put a situation like this out there, and that makes it even worse. So, all right. All right, Night Strike. Any closing comments, man, before we go?
Yep. Check out the Night Strike One channel on YouTube. Tomorrow night, me and Travis will cover the important news, politics, gun news topics of the week and weekend, and me and Travis will go through that. So check us out. Hit or miss Tuesday nights, 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central.
Sounds good. Right on, man. Right on. Okay. And Missouri Prepper, anything you want to say before we go? I'm sorry, Missouri Patriot. Why do I call you Missouri Prepper? Missouri Patriot. Anything you want to say before we go? I'm sorry, man. God, I've been up since 5:30, man. I apologize.
No,
go ahead, dude. Yeah.
It's all good. All good. No, just thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate you being here, man. Good
That's all I
stuff.
got.
Good stuff. Awesome. All right, and let's just see. Oh, real quick, make sure you guys subscribe to everybody on these panels. On this panel, they've all got great channels with great content. Make sure you guys check them out. Lots of good people out there, and there's a lot of good quality listening out there for you and watching out there for you. All right, so let's see what's going on here. We got a little M. Gabriel joining in this evening, Kingpin, 2 Live Moo, Guy That Comment, Sean Newman, Marco Dunn, Midnight Range TM in the house, Screaming Skull Saloon, my God. Kingpin's out there, Kingpin's over here, Trauma Jocks in the house, AC97, again, Screaming Skull Saloon, I got it right that time. Eric Mueller's out there also. Who else we got joining here this evening? A lot of new people. Calaveras 32 Special out there. 10X Shooters in the house. Good stuff. Good stuff. Billy the cab driver's joining in again. Billy, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Good stuff. Is that pretty much it? RJL's out there too. Yoder Texas was out there. G23's in the house, of course. Hopefully, I guys, I apologize if I missed any comments this evening. SS Pond joined us this evening. Tara Smith's out there too. Tara, thanks for watching. Aaron Mortensen watching us this evening. Jason Stewart. E Honda, always in the house. Let's see, joining in, watching this evening. Ecoda's out there too. And let's see, Philo, before I forget, Philo, if you're watching this, Philo, I still need your mailing address. I've got your February Patreon package. I've been waiting to send it out. So Philo, if you guys know Philo, give him a hard time and tell him I need a delivery address so I can get this package put in the mail, okay? 7 of 9 Hunans. What's that?
I told Philo you were looking for him. I told him he won the Patreon.
I did. I told him directly through somebody else's chat the other night. I'm like, dude, I just need a mailing address. If you don't want me to send it to you, I'll be happy to draw another person. It's not a big deal. So, but that's just part of it is, you know.
He mentioned when I said that, he mentioned in the chat room, so it's public information. I'm not telling stories.
Oh,
he's had some health issues.
Oh,
so
okay.
So,
all right.
If I see him in any more chats, I'll make sure I tell him once again to get a hold of you.
Okay, let's not give Philo a hard time. Let's just let it go. Don't worry about it. He'll get to me when he needs to. So there we go. Damage control. All right, Travis T's out there also. Black Cat Outdoors in the house. And the usual crew watching. Little Gizzard Gary, 2 Live Moo. Is that everybody? I don't know, it might be about it. Little Blue Steel 44 watching this evening. And I think we'll go ahead and call it there. I apologize if I missed anybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. Caliber Corner number 126. Again, basic prepping supplies, stuff you should have. If you got to go 14 days to keep you and your family happy, healthy, and safe, do you have those basic supplies? If you don't, consider getting them. Don't pay hoarding prices. Look around. There's a lot of ways you can get by without having to buy the overpriced food buckets, without having to buy the $40 a gallon Purell hand sanitizer, without having to buy the $19 bottle of water, right? So there's lots of options out there, so keep that in mind, all right? So in the meantime, guys, I want you to have fun. I want you to be safe. Make sure you check out the Guns and Geeks podcast over on the Never Enough Ammo channel tonight. Lots of good shows out there you guys should subscribe to. And as you know, we will talk to you soon. Y'all take care and have a good one.
Bye, Alicia.
Shout out me infringed.
Adios, Alicia. Adios, Alicia.